Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head over to America once again, and we're going to revisit probably one of the better known American craft breweries. These guys export their beers quite heavily these days, and the malt forward ones for me are pretty damn awesome. So for this one we're going to Grand Rapids in Michigan once again, and as many of you will know, that is home to Founders Brewing Company. And the beer we're having today is a style that I've only encountered quite recently. This one is the Curmudgeon, and it's an old ale brewed with molasses and aged in oak barrels, so it should be pretty interesting. It comes in at 9.8% and it was rated at 96 overall on Rate Beer and 98 within the style, so it's always a good barometer to have a look at Rate Beer when it comes to trying craft beer. Usually they're not far wrong, but sometimes on some of the obscure beers they can be. But this old ale style is one that I only encountered a few videos ago with North Coast Brewing, and it was really nice, so I'm very interested to see what Founders' take on this style is as well, because these guys do some pretty awesome malty beers. But anyway, as is usual with my beer reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. It will be very brief, but if you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other Founders reviews. I think this is the fourth one that I'm doing for you now, and there's all the usual social media. Make sure you check that out, and if you want to see more beer reviews, do subscribe to the channel. And as always, to those of you watching in Michigan and the wider United States, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers that you guys would like to see me review, and hopefully I can find some of them here in Sweden. But we do have limited supply, but I can guarantee you I will try my best. But anyway, to tell you about Founders Brewing Company. So this brewery was originally founded in 1997 as the Canal Street Brewing Company in Grand Rapids, Michigan by Mike Stevens and David Engbers, and the two were home brewing enthusiasts, and at this point they'd only recently graduated from university, but they both had quite steady jobs. But soon after that they decided that they wanted to follow their passion. They drew up a business plan and took out hefty loans and founded their brewery. So in the 1800s several breweries had operated in this Canal Street area of Grand Rapids, and this area is now apparently called Monroe Avenue, and the original labels on the beers actually had a black and white photo of the original Canal Street breweries with the word Founders above it, and thus the brewery became known as Founders Brewing Company. But in the early days the brewery ran very close to bankruptcy because they were brewing kind of just sort of mediocre beers, if you like, but then they had a kind of radical rethink, and the brewing team decided to take a different approach to their brewing, and this is when they started to produce these really big flavoured beers that they're quite well known for now. But the company motto, drawn straight from the website, says, "We don't brew beer for the masses, instead our beers are crafted for a chosen few, a small cadre of renegades and rebels who enjoy a beer that pushes the limits of what is commonly accepted in taste. We make beer for people like us." So it's kind of the whole it's the sort of stereotypical American craft brewing thing. Pack in loads of flavour, and you know, that's what most of us do enjoy. But since the mid-2000s the brewery's grown substantially, and they now produce about 340,000 barrels of beer per year, and their sales market is constantly growing. Like I said, they export to many different countries these days, including here in Sweden. But they have a tap room which overlooks the brewing facilities, and the customers can now get a view of the team brewing the beer. And they also have an annual festival which is called Founders Fest, which is in the street in front of the brewery, and during this time the street is actually closed off, and there's various music acts, food stalls and things like that. So if you find yourself in America and in Michigan at that time, you probably want to go up to Grand Rapids and try some Founders beers. They do produce some pretty awesome stuff. In my opinion, it's really the malt forward beers where they shine. So just to give you a list of some of the beers they do, in their year-round range they have a lot of their lighter beers. There's the All Day IPA, which is meant to be really nice, Centennial IPA, Pale Ale Porter, and also the Dirty Bastard Scotch Ale, which is a nice beer. They've got a few different draft beers as well, and then their seasonal range they've got Red Rye IPA, which is January to April, the Rubaeus, which is a raspberry ale from May to August, and also the breakfast stouts. And in their specialty range there's the Imperial Stout, Curmudgeon Old Ale, which is they say it's a fisherman's beer actually, and Double Trouble. And they also have the Backstage series, which is where they bottle some of their experimental beers from the tap room, and these ones are very, very sought after, and they do have a limited edition series of beers too. So anyway, that's enough about the brewery. Let's actually get on to the tasting of this beer itself. If you want to see more about the different beers that they do, just check out the brewery website in the description below. There's a whole list of them on there, and there's quite a lot of them actually. So let's have a look at this beer itself. So as I mentioned, this one is a 9.8% old ale. I actually didn't say on the website what hops and malts they used in this one, and I remember that being a thing with Founders Brewery, so unfortunately I can't say anything about that in the video like I normally enjoy doing. But this one is their March to April seasonal. You can see the standard Founders bottle cap on this one. And you can see it's got the old fisherman just sitting there on his chair, if I remember correctly. They did say on the website that this one was a fisherman's beer. It says brewed for us on the side. It does tell you a little bit in a few different languages on the back there too. But yeah, nicely presented, typical Founders artwork, 9.8% old ale. So without further ado, I guess we should open this guy up and get on with the tasting then. So yeah, as you can see, when we pop the bubble, a nice smoky opening on this one. And we'll get it out and into the glass. And the first thing I'm noticing again with this style of beer is the fruity esters that you get off this one as you open it up. I noticed the same with that old stock ale from North Coast Brewing. It was the fruity esters that hit you first, and it's pretty nice actually. I enjoy these big fruity and malty beers. So yeah, that one is crystal clear actually. I'm not sure how well you can see that on the camera, but this is a really nice, if I hold it up to the light here, for me it's a nice red coppery colour. I'll just bring the light down and see if you can see that colour a little bit. It's actually really quite bright. It's a really nice coppery red amber colour. It is crystal clear as well. You can see there with the light coming across the beer just how clear that is. And there's a solid finger of a kind of creamy beige head on this one, I would say. It's just got a little slightly beigey tint to it, but overall really nice. There's no visible sediment in this one, and there's some big bubbles at the side of the glass, but quite a few little ones just going up towards the bottom of the head there. So it should be a very nice beer. It certainly looks very nice. So let's have a closer look at the aroma for this one. Yeah. So on first note, this one's actually quite mild in its aroma, to be honest. Just without sugaring it up, you can smell a bit of bready character, a kind of doughy bread underneath this one. On top of that, there's maybe a little bit of biscuit, but you can smell some of these red fruity esters. For me, it's quite a candied fruit ester coming out of this one. So we'll sugar it up and see what else we get out of this. I'm sure we'll get some nice caramel and things out of this one. Yeah, when you sugar it up more, you start to get these big aromas, which is exactly what you would expect from this beer. If you just let it settle, it does smell quite mild, but when you sugar it up, it starts to smell really strong, which is exactly what you would expect. And I do remember that being a thing with the Founders beers. When you just let them settle, they didn't have much aroma to them. You had to sugar them up to get the notes out of them. But when you sugar this beer up, you start to get the big roasted caramel, which is what you'd expect. More toasted than roasted, I should say, actually. And you can smell some of that darker treacle, or molasses as the Americans like to call it. You can smell that coming out of this beer. And there's a little bit of a kind of woody, nutty infusion, maybe even a little bit of vanilla. It is barrel aged after all. So it smells really nice actually. Yeah, there's an interesting aroma coming from this one, so just enjoy this a little bit. There's maybe a little bit of an earthy, slightly grassy hop coming out of this one too. But just take a little bit of time and enjoy the aroma from this one before you actually try the beer. It does smell really quite nice, especially when you sugar it up. I love that bready character. When you get these big malty caramel beers, I love it when they've got just that little bit of bready character too. It's a big trait with American beers, I've found, and it works really nicely. So without further ado then, let's get stuck into this beer. So this is the Curmudgeon from Founders Brewing Company in Grand Rapids in Michigan, a 9.8% old ale. Let's get stuck in. Slàinte, skål. Oh yeah, that's a nice beer. That is good. I think I've got it at just the right temperature as well. I tried to get this one so that it was about 6-7 degrees, and it works really nicely. It's got a little bit of a thicker mouthfeel to it actually. That is really good, this one. You can taste a little bit of the mineral content in the water, which is another thing I remember being a bit of a trademark of Founders Brewery as well. Yeah, this is a really nice beer. For me, the nice bready malt base just blankets the middle of the tongue, and on top of that you start to get these nice, these kind of big chewy caramel flavours, and you can taste in the middle of your palate, you'll just taste the nutty and woody infusion in there. There is a bit of vanilla as well, and it does get just a little bit darker as you move into the aftertaste. You can actually feel some of the hops coming out a little bit more in this one. Yeah, that is pretty damn nice, I have to say. This is a really, really interesting beer. Very smooth as well. That's one of the other things I've noticed about this style, is just how smooth these beers are. They're big and oily, and they've got this really smooth carbonation. Yeah, that's nice actually. So yeah, as I was saying, in the middle of the palate you've got this nice bready character that just blankets the middle of the tongue. It's actually quite a sweet bread, almost as if it just has a little bit of corn syrup in it or something like that. But on top of that, you start to get the darker molasses. The caramel in this one isn't as sweet as the other one that I had. The caramel in this one, the brown sugars are noticeably darker. That's the treacle and molasses, and it is quite toasted as well actually. Yeah, really nice beer. No doubt about that at all. Yeah, this is a damn good beer actually. Having it just at the slightly higher temperature works out really well. But this is nice. So like I was saying, in the middle of the palate, you've got these really nice flavours. As the infusion, this is one of the good things about Founders beers. The flavours just blend together very well. There's in all of these Founders beers that I've tried, there is nothing that is too punchy. Founders have this focus that while the beers are packed with flavour, it's just that everything blends together really nicely. Some of these beers you get from the West Coast can be very, very hoppy, and they forget about the malt character a little bit. But for me, Founders seem to get the balance between all the flavours quite well. And they've done it again with this one. So just behind the front curve of the tongue, you can pick out these red fruity esters in the beer, and it's quite candied again. And as I always say, it reminds me a little bit of these kind of heart-shaped sweets that you get in the Haribo Star Mix. It's got that nice red candied fruit ester to it, but on top of that, it has a little bit more of a kind of juicy, figgy character, but not quite the sharper raisins or plums, but it has a nice juicy figgy flavour to it, this one for me. But yeah, that's a really nice beer. That around the edges of the palate you can get some of the hoppy character. There is a smooth earthiness, you can feel a little bit of dryness from it in the back corner of the palate, and as you come further forward you can actually get just a little bit of resin. For me there's quite a slightly dark floral aromaticity to this beer. Around the front curve of the tongue though, it is very smooth, but at the sides I'm just getting a little bit of a resinous character, and it is quite a dark floral aromatic character, and it fits in nicely with the other the flavours going on in this beer. And that particularly comes out in the aftertaste. This beer does have a little bit of a hoppy character in the aftertaste for me. But blend of flavours in this one is really, really nice. The wood, the kind of vanilla flavours that you get from the woody character, the dark treacle and molasses is really nice as well. But this is a pretty damn good beer, I have to admit. Another outstanding kind of malt forward beer, I guess, from Founders Brewing Company. They really do excel in this place, but I do need to try some of their IPAs and see how they get on with the lighter style of things. Most of the beers that I've tried from Founders have been the pretty high ABV ones, so I need to try some of their IPAs and stuff like that. So yeah, in terms of the mouthfeel of this one, again, I would say quite full-bodied. There's a big oily mouthfeel to this one. The carbonation is quite smooth. As you would expect, it's very malt forward. There's a good kind of chewy sweetness, but a nice sort of dark, a nice kind of darkness to it as well. Like I say, it's definitely more of a treacle molasses sort of thing, so it is a little bit darker. And then on top of that, you've got these nice red, juicy, fruity esters, but there is a good bit of hoppy, kind of resinous character for this one coming out for me. That one just sits there on the edge of the palate, so there's an interesting balance to this one. It's like an old world style, but it has some of these American hoppy characters to it as well. So overall, really, really interesting beer, this one. And if you do want something, I guess this is a little bit different from the one I tried from North Coast. So I'll need to explore this style a little bit more and see how it's evolved, but this is a really, really good beer, and once again, Founders really shine when it comes to these malt forward high ABV beers. So make sure you check this one out for yourself. But as always, I hope you've enjoyed this beer review. It's been really cool to return to Founders once again. Another really good beer from these guys. If you haven't tried it for yourself, I would recommend that you do. It's usually available from March to April, but obviously in Sweden we've got it a little bit later here, although it is the end of April when I'm filming this review. But it's really nice. Let me know your own thoughts on it in the comment section below. I hope you've enjoyed the beer review. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your favourite beers from Founders. Do let me know some other breweries from Michigan and the rest of the US that I should check out. But until the next time, slange just now, and I will catch you soon. Make sure you go and check out all the social media things, and I will catch you a bit later on. Slange.